So much is being said, you know, your mother told you don't say anything that you can't live with. And I think a lot of stuff is being said that gets in the way then of governance when we get past the political season, which I know you're all going to say, well, when is that we get past the political season? But, you know, hopefully we'll have a little respite coming up. There was also I was trying to figure out why things have gotten so kind of hostile, like people are so at each other's throats. And I put it together with another article that I read called Year of the Missing Candidates, which was on Politico. I recommend you go look at it sometime if you can. Not just because I'm quoted in it, but because it's a very good article. And it's about how you don't see the candidates anymore. The candidates are not on the campaign trail. A lot of it is about ads. The candidates aren't even telling the press where they're going. They're not putting out schedules. And this is not true of all of them, but this is true in enough places to be troubling. So, you know, when I was talking to this guy, he said, well, why do you think that is? And I said, well, you know, basically, let's go back, you know, and look at some of the greater moments that we've seen this year. There is first of all, Charlie Rangel, Congressman from Harlem, who's been in some hot water lately about some of his business dealings, who gets chased down the halls of Congress with a guy who's talking to him rather nicely, saying, oh, hi, how are you, Congressman, how's it going, da, da, da. And then, you know, Rangel turns around to talk to him and he just, you know, starts pummeling him with stuff about why did you, you know, cheat the taxpayers, you know, why did you do this or that or the other thing. And I said, part of it is, if you also think back to Arlen Specter, for instance, when he ran in Pennsylvania, and he went up there for a town hall meeting, and I mean, he just got pummeled. And not like hard, tough questions, but like screaming, you know, sort of pushing at him. And I said, if you are the candidate, there is no way to look good when that's going on. The TV pictures are terrible. You look besieged. You look as though you've done something wrong. You're encircled by people who are screaming at you. And so no matter how calm you are, it just looks bad. And it shows up on YouTube. And it shows up on, you know, across the networks. I mean, we can't resist a good political yelling battle. The only person who can get away with this, by the way, and I'll talk a little more about him later, is Chris Christie, the new governor in New Jersey. Like, he's forever telling voters where to get off, and they love him, you know. So he somehow has that kind of personality that can withstand it. Arlen Specter does not. So there have been so many moments. These guys are scared to go out there because it hurts them, even if they have a perfectly rational explanation. Even if you say, "Whoa, who was that crazy person?" The pictures are really explosive. I think the other thing is anybody with a flip cam, anybody with a telephone, they're so guarded now because people are looking for how many hits they can get on YouTube. You know, can I get this candidate doing this? Can I get this candidate doing that? And I think it's freaking them out. And they just don't go out. Now look, they also, you know, campaigns are expensive, they have to raise money. I mean, there's other reasons to be doing it. Candidates that are ahead don't necessarily have to go out and do a lot. They just have to kind of like, you know, play out the clock. Also, you have people that you have, without naming any names, but if you have a friendly media, all you have to do is go to them. Because you're talking to your people, because they're watching that media. And if you're on the right or the left, you've got a place to go, and you're going to reach your base. So why go out and talk to anybody that might give you grief if you can get a friendly interview someplace else? One of the things this article also said is that they're even stiffing. Now, I'm used to getting stiffed in the national media. They don't tend to like, people don't tend to, politicians don't like to be seen on national TV because it makes them look too Washington. And so when you're in the middle of a campaign, you try not to look, you try to pretend you're from wherever you're running. And so they don't want to go on shows like ours. They want to go on like local shows. Only now, they don't even want to do that. And I think that there's multiple reasons why the candidates are missing this year. But one of them, I really think one of their for not giving out schedules and for not going out more and having town hall meetings is the level of discourse has become incredibly uncivil. And in some states worse than others, but it is very hard even to get them to debate. We have tried to get lots of folks together for a debate, and they don't want to do it. You know, they don't know what's coming. And so I think, you know, we have to, in some ways, I look at the internet, and I was telling Suzanne earlier, I said, you know, I'm just never going to forgive Al Gore for inventing the internet. And the thing is, I'm like a free speech person. You know, I think the more press, the better. But somehow, somewhere along the line, in the sort of uncontrolled great world of the internet, which I know I'm supposed to love and have a love-hate relationship with it, is we've, like, all this intimacy has come in. Like, you know what this person said, and you've seen this person doing this, and you can Google them, and 8 billion things come up. And somehow, all that intimacy has made it so we don't know each other. It just is working backwards for some reason. And I think it also adds to the angst that's out there. There was a really good piece, I think in the New York Times, I think it was today, where they did a focus group. You know, they just sort of get people in and have them talk about stuff and try to get a feel for it. And they said, you know, it's not, yes, people are worried about the economy, but just in general, they don't like the tone of things. You know, people are fed up with just, you know, just everything feels awful. It's not just that it's a bad economy, it's that nothing seems to get done and people are saying bad things about each other. When, you know, somebody brought up how the kids, you know, had a food fight in the cafeteria and that people are hostile on the roads. Although I have to say here, oh my goodness, this is great traffic here. You all should be grateful. I couldn't believe it. People actually like slow down when the light's orange. You know, and it's kind of amazing. They don't, in Washington, they run red lights. I mean, it's pretty awesome. So, you know, I think reality TV has met politics, and I don't think it's for the better. And I don't know how you put the genie back in the bottle. I don't think you can. And I don't want to argue against more is worse, because I don't think more is worse. It's just somehow we need to find a way to harness the internet so that people know where to go, who's reliable, you know, who's telling the truth. But as you know, people have different versions of the truth. I know that sounds crazy, but they do. And so it's just hard to figure out how we can put the genie back in the bottle, at least to the extent where politicians feel free to move about their states, and where they're not afraid of the media, and they're not afraid of, you know, one of these trackers, which are people from the other campaign that follow their every move, waiting for them to do something, and both sides do it, waiting for them to do something bad. I had a sort of an aha moment, if I could quote Oprah, and I've never done that before. When Lee Hamilton was a congressman from Indiana, a very esteemed guy, very, very Indiana, just, you know, right down the middle, and a good guy, and he retired. We had the Clinton impeachment ongoing, and we decided we wanted to do a piece on political hypocrisy, because you know, no matter who's in charge, the person in charge is always for special prosecutors, and the party not in charge is always against them, and then they flip, and then they, you know, so we wanted to do something. So I went out to Lee Hamilton's house, and I sat down with him, and I said, we're talking about political hypocrisy, and I had never in my life ambushed somebody in an interview, not once. And so we're sitting there having this conversation about hypocrisy, and I said, but, you know, I mean, do you think it's just a part of the culture? I mean, you know, the politics involves some form of hypocrisy. And he looked at me, and in that moment, I saw he was like scared. And I thought, what is this? And he looked at me and he said, well, I suppose you could go back and find any kind of soundbite that's going to make me look like a hypocrite. And I thought, wow, he thinks I'm here to get him. You know, and I thought, well, I did think, is there a soundbite? But I didn't know that. But, you know, and I realized, and this was, you know, Clinton impeachment, so I realized at that point that the relationship between reporters and people they cover is a very tricky one. And I want to ask hard questions of somebody, but I don't want to, like, track them. That shouldn't be our goal. Now I think our politicians, I mean, this is like Lee Hamilton on steroids. I just feel like that politicians feel trapped by us, which is, you know, the royal us. Whether it's the flip cam or whether it's the big old cameras, that they don't really know how to handle this new age. One of the things, I also think there's just way too much incoming with the internet, and I can't stand it that people don't have to sign their names to things. When I was about 20, I wrote a letter to the editor of the Washington Post. The Washington Post called me. They verified my name, they verified my address, and they verified my phone number and said, would you mind if we printed your letter? Now, I can assure you, I mean, I know, again, you know, there's no way to put this back in the bottle, but there has to be some, people need to be responsible for their words. And if you cannot, you know, I mean, people cannot, it's why I don't like anonymous sources. AP, them will tell you, always had this rule that you couldn't use an anonymous source to speak ill of somebody else. That person had to be on the record. If the anonymous source was going to say we're about to go to war, well, that's one thing. He's going to say that guy's a jerk. You can't use it. You know, put your name to it if you're going to hit somebody. And you know, I know there are websites who do agree to that. The problem is that you can, of course, make up a name. I mean, it's the internet, so you can make up a name and you can make up a fake, you know, fake place for people to, you know, to send your verification to. So I do think that there is something that needs to be done, or at least what has added to this uncivil discourse has been this kind of wild frontier that we have about the internet. Having said that, I truly believe that there is now more information out there to be had. People can be better informed now than ever before, because it is amazing what you can get access to. So it's why I have a love-hate relationship, because I mean, I'm on it every day, because I've learned some new way to find something, and you can, you know, immediately find out somebody's FEC records and who, you know, who this guy was and who did he lend money to, and so it's like this huge gift that that somehow we need to keep sort of focusing on that part of it and try to figure out the rest of it, because I do think it's adding an awful lot to what's become a pretty bad debate, especially when it's I was talking to my producer today. He said, look, every Tom, Dick, and Mary has a cell phone that can take pictures, and that's the whole problem. Okay, well, I'll tell them that. So that's from my producer, who does things sort of the same, along the same lines. And in the end, what it's doing is keeping us from talking to the candidates. In the end, we have less information about the candidates on a personal basis, because we have so much information and misinformation in other places. I think one of the things that also sort of adds to this, and I'm going to do it mea culpa, and I'm not going to do this because there's going to be questions afterwards, and I'm sure some of them will be about the media, so there's only so much falling on my sword I'll do, and let you go ahead and hammer. But I think one of the problems that is our fault is that we caricature everyone. Everyone is a flat caricature on the, oh, here's this talking head, he's going to say this bombastic thing, and here's a guy from this side, and he's going to say this. And when I first took over, I have a show on Sunday mornings, and I first took it over, I said, we've got to find a way to, like, give these people flesh, you know, to say, here's what this person is about. You know, here's a little something about this guy, because I think people turn on Sunday shows and go, isn't that the same guy that was on there like last week? And didn't he say those exact same things? And you would be right if that's what you think. So we came up with this idea called Getting to Know. And we take one person every show on Sunday. And in the commercials, we ask completely random questions to them that have nothing to do with politics, just to sort of see what they're going to say. I'm going to play you one of these and then try to tell you what my point is. This, I believe you'll recognize this guy.
State of the Union with Candy Crowley, CNN Sunday morning, 9 Eastern.